Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today is the last trading day of September, the 30th of September 2019. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's morning session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, also just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, but specifically our JFD Research tab, and where you can find a lot of useful stuff, I believe, as well. So feel free to visit us here. But for now, guys, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the DAX, or the German index. So after last week's initial kind of decline, we saw the index drifting lower here. We saw it kind of breaking this tentative upside line. We can actually get rid of it now because it failed to withhold, so it kind of got violated. But the main level that we're going to be keeping a close eye on, of course, is this one right here. I've talked about this one previously, and that was around the 12,180 zone. So we did have an overshoot here, but looking at this 4-hour chart, of course, you can see that we did have some breaks. But looking at the daily chart, you can see that the close never happened. Yes, we did have this false breakout, but it kind of still held nicely, and we saw the index kind of drifting back up here and back inside this little range that I talked about previously when I was covering DAX, and that range is roughly around the between the 12,312 zone on the downside and the 12,476 on the upside. The only thing is maybe we can actually adjust this level slightly. So this is what we'll be looking at here right now. So let me just quickly put this one on the chart, and that's roughly around the 12,493. So that's the level that we can keep an eye on. In a way, for now, we're going to continue monitoring it, just watching it, because it would be a bit of a tricky one. So of course, given the fact that it drifted lower, it tried to drop lower but failed to even reach the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart here. It reversed back inside this range, so in a way there is a chance that we could see this one drifting further north. But again, for us to get comfortable with higher levels, ideally we need to see a push above the 12,493 zone, or if you want, you could round it up towards the 500 level. So the 12,500 could be a nice potential breakout point here for DAX, and if we see a push above that, then we'll aim for the 12,600 or the 656 zone, which is marked by the high of the 4th of July. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. Very interesting. If suddenly this drops back below the 12,312 zone, to be honest, still for us to get comfortable with the downside, ideally we would like to see a daily close here below this 12,180 zone, and then we will aim for lower levels. So for now, in terms of the downside, we'll take a very conservative approach here and wait for a drop below this one right here. NZDUSD, something that is quite interesting this morning, and we're seeing quite an interesting picture here. Basically, it continues to trade. Of course, it continues to trade below this tentative downside resistance line, and you can see already which one. So this is the one taken from the high of the 22nd of July, roughly around there. So, but the more important fact is that the pair is now knocking on the door of its key area of support near the 0.6250 zone, approximately around there. So basically, if we get a break below this, then this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could see this one drifting further to the downside. So Keep your eyes on this one. Like I said, for now it's very close. And if we jump, for example, into a daily chart, let me just quickly jump this one. So the next target for us could be around the 0.619697 zone right here, and I'll show you what that level was here in the past. I need to scroll back here towards the 2015 zone. So that was basically near the low of August, near the lowest point of August of 2015, guys. So keep your eyes on this one. This could be a nice, interesting move here, but again, before we could examine, let's say, further declines, we need to see a drop below this this key area of support near the 0.60 250 zone. In terms of the upside, well, you probably understand that we are waiting still for a push back above this downside line here, or even actually wouldn't say a back above it, but just a push above this downside line before we could kind of start examining higher levels. For now, it seems that the upside could be slightly off the table unless something drastically changes here, or let's say the pair decides not to go ahead and break this 0.6250 zone. For now, guys, keep your eyes on this level. Let's see how this is going to play out. In terms of the upside, we're not going to consider any moves higher, or at least in the near term, until we see a clear break of this downside line. So keep your eyes on this one. USDJPY, something quite interesting as well. So by the way, if you, I mean, we do have some interesting data coming out this week. So especially on Friday, we do have the NFPs. So we could see some nice movement here in the USDJPY and some other pairs as well. Well, I'll get to those, but for now, the technical picture on the on USDJPY is this. Basically, after we managed to break this little tentative downside line here, the pair drifted higher but failed to push above the 108.17 zone. So, of course, this level now for us becomes an important one. We're going to keep an eye on it. If we see a push above that, then yep, we will aim for slightly higher levels. And by slightly higher levels, I mean the this highest point of September near the 108.47 zone, approximately around there. And if that fails to withhold, now this could be quite interesting, as this would open the path towards higher levels. If we get a push above the 108.47, then yep, this would confirm a forthcoming higher high, and we could target then the highs of the 31st, the high of the 31st of July, and that's roughly around the 109.32 zone. But for now, basically, try to keep it short and simple, because like I said, we are the pair in a way could end up moving maybe just somewhere around here and wait for Friday. But again, let's of course not over speculate on this one. From the very short term perspective, how you could play this one out is keep an eye on the 108.17 zone. That's the high of last week. A nice good push above it could open the path towards the highest point of September near the 108.47 zone. But if that fails to withhold, then yep, we could be aiming for the 109.32 zone. But again, for now, we're going to keep it short and simple. In terms of the downside here, well, it's also a bit of a tricky one, because in a way, it could drift lower a little bit. It could test the 200 EMA, but it could stall here, and we could see maybe a nice reversal back to the upside. So for now, of course, the idea how we're gonna play this one is, if we see a drop below the 107.62 zone here, that's basically the low of the 27th of September, and we are going to aim for this level right here, the lowest point of last week, near the 106.93 zone. And this could be a nice potential target, but if this fails to withhold, then yep, of course, then we could see further declines. This would confirm a forthcoming lower low here in the shorter time frame, and we could target areas like the 106.57 or the 106.32 zone. But again, also don't forget that if, let's say, if we see a drop, let's say below the 107.62, and we see a drift lower, then we see let's say if we see a test of the 106.93, this could stall here, maybe even reverse back to the upside a little bit, correct back to the upside. So what I'm saying here is that in a way, don't forget that we may end up seeing here something of a range. So and the broader range could be here roughly between this 106.93 zone and the 108.47 on the upside. So but of course, for now, guys, this is just a hypothetical idea, or if I can say it that way. So keep your eyes on this potential kind of idea. If, like I said, if these two barriers here are very strong, the 108.47 and the 106.93. So that's why, guys, even if we see a breaks through these little levels here that I've mentioned initially, the stronger ones for us are still these, the 108.47 and the 106.93. So keep your eyes on this one. In a way, this week we could see maybe a move somewhere here inside this kind of in between these two big levels. But let's say coming to Friday, maybe we'll get a nice pop through one of these sides. But again, this is a bit of a guess here, but let's see how this is going to play out, guys. Just keep this idea in the back of your head somewhere. USD CAD still within this range, still ranging, still roughly between the 1.3229 30 zone here on the downside and the 1.3310 on the upside. So we're not touching this one until it gets out of this one, until it gives us a clear close outside of this range. We need to see a clear close. Of course, a 4-hour candle would be nice, but ideally we would like to see a nice good daily close, because it's kind of already trading here from around mid-September, so it's trading inside this little range. So that's why we need to see a nice good daily close outside of this range before we could examine a further directional move. So for now, guys, still, I've looked at this one previously in my previous videos, so still the same game plan remains. We're waiting for that close outside of this range, and then we'll consider further directional move. GBPUSD. So we do have some news coming out today. We have the UK GDP figures. So last week, after breaking this, after kind of completing the head and shoulders formation here, the pair drifted lower. I've talked about this one in my videos, and it broke below this 1.2380 zone, but found kind of refuge here near the 1.2280 zone. So we're going to keep a close eye on this one. That was basically previously that was the low of the 12th of September. You can see that the pair is currently kind of hanging around here. Of course, this kind of current picture, this technical picture, doesn't really paint a very positive kind of picture. For now, for us, let's say, to at least start examining maybe slightly higher levels, or at least to consider higher levels, we would like to see this one pushing back above the 1.2380 zone, and only then kind of we will aim for higher levels, because the pair would be back above this 200, well, actually above all of its EMAs here on the 4-hour chart, and this way kind of increases the chances for a drift back towards the 1.25 zone or even above that. But again, for now, like I said, keep your eyes on some of the other levels. In terms of the upside, like I said, we'll still stick to this one, the 1.2380, but in terms of the downside, if we see a drop below the 1.2280 zone here, then yep, we will consider the next potential target at 1.2230, or we could even see a push further down towards the 1.2175 zone, and that's basically marked by the high of the 2nd of September. So again, guys, keep your eyes on this one. It could be quite interesting today. Let me just quickly draw this arrow here in terms of the downside here. So could be quite interesting today. So keep your eyes on the data. Look at the economic calendars, and be very careful. Have your stop loss in place here, guys. GBPNZD. So as you can see that although GBPUSD is kind of potentially or could potentially move lower. You can see that the New Zealand dollar is the weaker one, and we've seen that when we looked at the NZDUSD pair here. So that's the reaction we're having here on the GBPNZD. So even though both currencies are on the weaker side, still the New Zealand dollar is on, well, still the weaker one between these two, at least. For now, you can see the picture. So initially, after kind of when I was talking about the 1.98 zone, and previously I talked about that one, I said that if we want to consider further declines, we need to see a drop below the 1.98 zone. We did get that. It drifted lower. We were still targeting this tentative upside line here, taken from the low of the 29th of July. So the pair drifted lower, but failed to kind of get closer to it. Of course, it's not the end here. I mean, there's still this little move higher could be seen as part of a correction, because for us, let's say, to consider the upside, of course, we'll start looking at slightly higher levels if we get a push above the 1.9710 zone. But let me just quickly adjust this level slightly, because for us to get maybe a little bit more comfortable with the upside, this is what we need. We need to see a push above the 1.9682, 83 zone, at least there, before we could kind of aim for higher levels again, and we could then target areas like the 1.9872 zone, previously acting as a very good in intraday swing low here of the 20th of September. So, and then yes, we will consider a possible move back towards the psychological 2 zone. But again, at this point in time, yes, it is showing some strength here, but let's see how this is going to play out. If New Zealand dollar here continues to slide, then yes, we could see this one drifting a little bit higher. But for us, like I said, to get comfortable at least with slightly higher levels, at least to start considering slightly higher levels, a push above the 1.9783 zone, roughly around there, would be needed. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. In case this decides not to travel higher and reverses earlier, well, still keep your eyes on this upside line here, taken from the low of the 29th of, is it the 29th or is it the 30th? Let me just quickly double check. The 30th of July. So keep your eyes on that one, guys. So the low of the 30th of July, this upside line here, taken from that low, could play out nicely, and still we're keeping close eye on this 1.94 4850 zone, which also could play out nicely, as it was previously seen as a strong area of support back here on the 16th of September. So guys, for now, this is the game plan for the GBPNZD. Let's see how this is going to play out. I hope you'll be very careful on this one, but let's say if this, let's say, starts dropping below the upside line, then, well, this could be opening the path towards much lower levels. But again, we'll consider that if we see this one drifting towards this upside line. And the last pair for this session is going to be the euro dollar. So this one continues, of course, to drift below its downside resistance line, taken from the high of the of June here this year. But looking at this picture here, last week the pair drifted below this key area of support near the 1.0924. I talked about this one a lot, and it drifted lower, tested the 1.090405, but managed to kind of, let's say, retrace back to the upside and close the week above this 1.0924. Now, given this kind of this move, we will consider a possible retracement, maybe higher here a little bit, maybe aiming for the 1.0964. If this decides to travel higher but fails to push above, let's say, the 1.0964 zone, we may see an earlier reverse here back to the downside. But still, for us, let's say, to get more comfortable with the downside, ideally we would like to see a drop below the 1.0924 first, and then aim for these lower levels. Of course, we'll aim for the lowest point of the last week near the 1.0904. But if that fails to withhold, now this is where the pair would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and we could then target areas like the 1.0839. And that's basically the lowest point of May 2017, guys. So keep your eyes on this one. could be quite an interesting move here, but let's say, like I said, for now, given the fact that the pair is currently right now trading above its pivot, this kind of gives a little bit of hope here for the buyers. We could see, like I said, this one pushing back to the upside here, but if it struggles to get above the 1.0964 zone, then we could see another round of selling here. So keep your eyes on this one. If this decides to push back above the 1.0983, we will aim for slightly higher levels here, but only up until this downside line, because for us, as I've previously mentioned a lot, we need to see a nice good break of this downside line first, before we could start examining higher levels again, guys. So for now, anything up until this downside line could be seen as a correction. So if we see a larger move higher here, this could mean a larger correction here. And that's why we're going to be very careful with this one, and especially with the upside, because for us the upside will start above this downside line. So keep your eyes on this one. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me later on in my Traders Tea Time, as always, that's 13:15 GMT. Like I said, be very careful today. We do have some data coming out, so especially from UK. So yep, guys, apart from that data, it could be quite a relatively quiet day in terms of data wise, economic data wise. But again, don't forget that we have the whole Brexit saga still ongoing, the whole trade talks. So any news around that could influence, of course, one of these pairs that I've just mentioned. So, okay, guys, I hope you have a fantastic trading day today. Like I said, I'll be happy to see you later on in my Traders Tea Time. But for now, thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.